So I want to, first of all, thank Chaya. Chaya Levinson is from, I hope that wasn't Chaya that left. Chaya Levinson lives in Toronto. I know her a long time. I want to give her a karas of all of us who are on this call to listen to her story. Chaya was on before, and she shared with us some of what she went through and her incredible emunah and bitochen every step in the way and sharing with us that part of her life. She's going to continue sharing that second half of it, going on what she's experienced and how that has allowed her, emunah has allowed her to be able to grapple and thrive with what she's gone through. So I want to thank Chaya again. Thank you so much, Chaya. Are you on?
Yes.
Chaya? Okay, Chaya, you can introduce yourself now. I'm going to go off. Thank you so much, Chaya. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. And I'm glad it's working.
Okay. I'm not a techie, as I said, but we got it going. I'm here up north right now, so we're wondering if the connection will be maintained, but I will hope that it does. Hashem is good to us. I'm Chaya Levinson. I'm just a simple yid. I'm not a scholar. I'm just like many of you who've been through difficult times. But I wanted to share with you my emunah, because emunah is everything, everything. It helps you to get through the most difficult times and also the good times. It's there all the time, and we need a foundation upon which to draw. So I will start with the first thing in my journey was when many years ago, when I was sitting in a shiur, and Rav Lowy here in Toronto said that the first halacha is you put on your shoes right shoe first and left shoe second. And I thought, and then you tie the left and then you tie the right. I said, I'm left-handed. Everything I do is from the left. Everything I do is from the left. That's just an automatic. It's an automatic. So after this year, I went to speak to Rav Lowy, and I asked him, I said, is there like tefillin, can you put on the left hand? I mean, is there some reason why we can't go? He said, Mrs. Levinson, you have to go from the right first. Right is chesed, left is gevurah. This is my avodah. Every morning, every day, when I go to put on my shoes, I have to think about it. I have to think first, right foot first, because it's not an automatic. And then left foot. And if I put on the left foot first, I kick it off and I start again. This is my first connection in my day with Hashem. And I think we all need some connection to start with. I was asked once to be on a panel, and you'll understand why as my story goes on, for Trillium, which is our donor platform here in Ontario. And I wasn't sure at first why I was being asked, but now I understand. And I called it my magnet talk. Why? Because I have fridge magnets, like most of us. And one of my fridge magnets is from Shlomo HaMelech. And it says that just when I was about to give up, as a caterpillar, I became a butterfly. And that's my story. I was a caterpillar, and I had to become a butterfly. My doctor told me this now about 17 years ago that I had to find a kidney. To find a kidney, it was 7.5 years on a waiting list here in Toronto, or I could, if I was fortunate enough to find a live donor, could move right to the top. So needless to say, I decided that I was going to be a person who looked for the live donor. And it's like finding a needle in a haystack. Where do you begin? You start with your family. Well, my family we're all different blood types. I am A, and my sister is B, and my brother is AB, and it just went like that. So there was no matches in my family. So then you have to go further afield. Well, when you're looking for something like a kidney, you don't just look in your backyard. You look everywhere. So you turn every stone and you hope that you will find one. Well, I went online, tried to find one online. I got interesting responses. Yeah, I'll give you my kidney, but you have to donate to my fire fund. Fire fund? It's illegal to sell a kidney here in North America. You cannot buy a kidney. And his fire fund was his way of getting paid. Needless to say, I didn't go there. China, they take them out of the prisons, they shoot them, one bullet, they charge the family for the bullet, and then they say, here's your kidney. And you can get it from the Chinese government. There are ways I tried even in Israel. There was a black market in Israel. On the day of my son's engagement, I got a phone call saying, Mrs. Levinson, we have a kidney for you. $220,000. Whoa, I said, $220,000? They said, yes. Oh, but for you, we have a sale, 180. My husband looked at me and he said, you can't go there. Can't go there. So we continued our look. I went to Rav Lowy and I wanted to tell you, when you want something really, really bad, you figure, I'm going to dive into Hashem. I'm going to ask Hashem for what I want. And I wanted a kidney. I didn't want dialysis. I wanted a kidney. So I went to look for a kidney. And I asked Hashem every day when I daven, please, Hashem, give me a kidney. It took me a while to figure out that you cannot ask Hashem for what you want, but rather it's for what Hashem wants for you. And that'll be the best, no matter what. And when I decided to ask Hashem for either dialysis or a kidney so that I should live, that's when I got a response. The floodgates opened. I asked Rav Lowy if I could advertise in my community. Maybe, just maybe, I would find a kidney. And so he said to me, Mrs. Levinson, you cannot advertise. Not sneeze. Just talk about it. Talk about it wherever you go. Well, I changed my davening. I asked Hashem for his ratzon, and I didn't advertise. I got 8 donors. My doctor, Dr. Cole, who's head of the transplant in Toronto General here in Toronto, said to me, Mrs. Levinson, most people have 1, maybe 2 donors. You have 8? When you ask for something and you ask Hashem with all your heart, don't feel, even though it took me a year and a half, which is not really that long, it took me a year and a half to find what I was looking for. And I had no idea where it was going to come from. But I knew I had to talk about it. I had one donor, the last donor before my actual donor, who was a rabbi here in Toronto. And he's asked to remain anonymous. And he said to me, I asked if I could meet with him in the lab. Sometimes you don't always meet your donors. And so I went to the lab, and there he was, in his kapota. I said, oh, Dr. Rabbi, I could pick you out, a mile away. And he said, yes. And he said, Mrs. Levinson, and I could pick you out as well. I said, really? So the 2 of us sat in the lab waiting for the cross and type, which is one of the major tests they do to see if you are going to be a match. And I said to him, we can pay for your taxis. We can pay for lost time at work. Any expenses that you incur as a result of the kidney, I'm allowed to give you money. He looked at me and he said, when I ask you to pay for my esrog or my lulav? And I said, no. He said, well, that's my answer to your offer. And he said, let's be sameach. They called our name and we went in for a test. Well, he was close. He was close. He was ever so close, but he wasn't close enough. And just before Shabbos that weekend, I got a call from the hospital saying he wasn't a match. Now, my husband said to me, he was going to give a talk on a Hanukkah bias up north in Thornhill. And he asked me to come. I said, I can't come. I'm so crushed. I just lost another donor. I can't handle this. And he said, come on, get up, and let's go. And so I did. He said, you don't have to talk about it. He said, you don't have to talk about it if you don't want to. Just come. So I went. Well, I arrived there at the house, and I knew the host and hostess very little, just by name, really. They were Breslovers like ourselves. And we sat down at a table, men on one side, women on the other, and it was a marble table. And while I was sitting there, I was seated next to this lady. Her name was Carmen. And Carmen said to me, you know, my daughter was in Israel and she wanted an ice cream. She's 19 years old and she wanted an ice cream. It was very hot. And they were offering free ice creams for Gift of Life. I don't know if you've all heard about this program. It's a program which they look for donors for bone marrow. And Ashkenazim, you know, you can find a match, but it's a needle in a haystack, but you never know. She said, my daughter wanted an ice cream. So she went and got a free ice cream. They took a sample, and lo and behold, she was a match. She was a match for someone in New York City. She's Canadian. And she went to give her bone marrow, but not just on any day, on September 11th. She, at 9/11, this young lady was in Columbia Hospital in New York, waiting to give a bone marrow. And of course, everything went crazy. 9 o'clock, needless to say, it was a time of the terrible, terrible disaster. And so she looked at me, she said, you know, I mean, she did give her bone marrow much later, not that day, of course, but she did give her bone marrow. And I thought, oh, wow. I said, amazing. You know, Hashem is so great to find her, that little flower in that garden, to give to someone. And so I said to her, you know, I need a donor. And she said to me, what kind of donor? I said, I need a kidney donor. And from across the room, Mindy, who was to become my donor, she said to me, Chaya, did I hear you say you needed a donor? And I said, yes. And she said, I'll give you my kidney, but on one condition. I said, what's that? She said that you give, you know, you do liposuction for me and I will give you my kidney. I looked at her and I smiled. I said, oh, okay, you know, lots of people say they'll give their kidneys. We'll just see. Just stay behind and we'll talk. So we stayed behind, and it was interesting because her husband, Chaim, couldn't handle anything medical. You know, she kept saying, Mindy, can we do this offline? I can't handle this talk about giving a kidney. And Mindy was a nurse, like myself. Both of us were geriatric nurses. Both of us worked at Baycrest Hospital here in Toronto. And she said to me, Chaya, I'd like to give you my kidney. I just need to check out a few things. You know, tell me where I have to go. Give me all the information. And, you know, so I can go down to the hospital and get tested. So I said to her, okay. And I gave her the information. And after we left, we went to Florida for about 7 days because I had been crushed by I had about 4 donors. I just want to share with you one of my donors. And that is, her name was Rosemary. Rosemary was a Balchuva who I had gotten to know. She was a very nice young lady. She was single. She wrote for a medical newsletter. And so she was quite knowledgeable. And she said to me, Chaya, she was the first one to offer to give me her kidney. So she went down when we were matched, she went down to Toronto General And halfway through the testing, she said, I can't do it. I can't do it. Well, I was so emotional. I went to her and I said, Rosie, how could you? How could you? How could you do that to me? I mean, and my husband said, oh, Chaya, don't do that. And I told her, I said, you need to have Emunah, you need to have faith. She said, I'm afraid of the surgery. I can't go ahead. I can't go ahead. I can't do it, Chaya. 2 years later, she showed up at my table. We were having a Tu B'Shvat Seder, and she came. And I was kind of surprised to see her there because I felt, oh my goodness, what did I say to this poor young lady? I was so emotional. And I thought, for sure I just destroyed her because I was, But anyways, she came to me and she said, the reason why I'm here tonight, because I wanted to share something with you. And I thought, okay. And, you got to judge everybody Lahavskus. So I sat down with her. And she said to me, I gave a non-directed kidney donation at Toronto General last summer. I just about flipped. This young lady was not ready to give her kidney to me. It wasn't meant for me. But she was willing to give it to somebody else who she didn't know at Toronto General. Now they do these. People walk in off the street, if you can believe it, and offer their kidneys to them at Toronto General, and they find them a match, and they never find out who the recipient is. So it's very, very interesting how this method is done. They also do swaps. You say, oh my goodness, what's a swap? See, my sister was a type B. She couldn't give to me, but she could give to somebody else. So what they do at the hospital is they find somebody who needs a type B. They give you the type A that you need, and they do a swap. Now, these surgeries, they've done up to 6 at a time, have to be timed so that everybody goes into surgery at the same time. You're saying, well, how could that be? They open up 6 surgeries to do this swap, for 6 people who are giving this way, that way, to this person and to that person, because it has to be timed exactly so nobody backs out last minute. And apparently these swaps are very, very successful, both here in Canada and the United States. I did not need to do a swap. Mindy and I were a match. And we had the kidney donation, and we were in the hospital together. And Mindy came to me. I'm on a different floor because you go to an ICU after you have it, or a step down unit, it's called. And so we were on different floors, and she came to see me. And she said to me, I want you to know, Chaya, that I was adopted. And I said, really? I didn't know that, Mindy. And she said, I was adopted, and I don't know any of my family. I have no idea who they are. She says, you are the first blood relative that I have. I couldn't believe this. Hashem was so good to us that not only did I have her kidney, but it was something even more special that I had to guard. Now, kidney is Eitzah. It's the organ that gives Eitzah. My husband was a little concerned at the time because Mindy was a big shopper. She was a big shopper. And I would get the Eitzah to also go shopping. But we had the Eitzah, the two of us were very ruchnius, and it was very, very, very special. After the transplant, you think it's easy. Someone came to me and asked me, someone who had COVID and lost their kidney function, is now on dialysis, said to me, Mrs. Levinson, can you tell me what it's like to go for transplant? I want to go for transplant. I said, it's one peckle in exchange for another. Some people go easy and some people don't. You have to prepare yourself, because when you take on a transplant, you take on immunosuppression, which, as you know, for COVID is a big problem. It's a little bit more isolating. But I said, you have to have Emunah. That's where my base is. That's where I come from. That's my core. It gives me my strength to do what I had to do. Now, nothing in my life has come easy. Well, I feel like I have a lot in common with David Melech. I love to say Tehillim, but I also understand how he suffered many, many times, and how he found the strength at the end of each Tehillim to find Hashem and to look to Hashem, to hold his hand and pull him through it. That's how I did it. When I had my transplant, I went into rejection 3 days later. Now, rejection is very common in transplants. It's not uncommon. Some is worse than others. And I couldn't raise my hand above my head without terrible pain. I couldn't raise my legs. I couldn't stand without terrible pain. The doctors came to see me and they said, "Oh, Chaya, we've never seen a case like yours before." Yeah, right. I know I'm always that one, the most interesting, that 1 percentile. But I knew in my heart of hearts, I had to get through this. I had to hold on. I had to find somewhere deep inside me the strength to go through what I was going to go through. Hashem was giving me a transplant, but it wasn't going to make it easy. I was a diamond in the rough, and I had to be buffed. And boy, did I get buffed. I had plasmapheresis, which is what they use to remove antibodies. And, it's a very tough thing to go through. And I said, there's a nurse sitting at the end of my bed the whole time they're running this plasmapheresis. I said, "Isn't that nice that you're here? You're here to keep me company?" Oh, yeah. She says, "I have all kinds of training. I'm ICU, emerge, everything." I thought, why is she so well trained? And then I realized it's because it's not an easy procedure. And you can have a cardiac arrest, during this procedure. And, I thought to myself, Hashem, please take my hand, hold me. For 8 days, I went through this treatment, and I had to be strong. I didn't want to complain. I just wanted to get through this. I wanted to go to the next step. And I did. The last few days of my time in the hospital, they were putting in a central line. And in the central line, this is a line that goes to your heart, so they can give you medication and whatever. The doctor was putting in the line and he nicked the artery. And I started to hemorrhage. And the nurse is scrambling at the end of the bed. Quick, go to ICU. Let's get some IPAC. We got to stop this hemorrhaging. And he's saying, "Oh, no, I got it. And he didn't have it. And, I thought to myself, hang on. This could be the last step. I hemorrhaged that day, and I was completely hemorrhaged all up through here. Now, I was getting ready to go home. And the central line was the sort of the last step before I went home. And I had been in the hospital at this point about 6 weeks. And my son had just had a baby. And at 3:00 in the morning, he shows up at my bedside. And I'm in a private room. And, so they could keep an eye on me. I didn't have to go to ICU, but I was in a private room with a nurse, based at my bedside 24/7. And he shows up at 3 a.m. I said, "Abraham, what are you doing here?" "Mom, I just want to sit with you. I just want to sit with you because I feel what you're going through. There's no need for us to talk. Just want to sit with you. And I know you love Tehillim, so I'm going to stay here with you. I'm going to say to him, "You're going to get through this." When their baby was born, I forgot to mention this, was born 2 days before I had the surgery for the transplant. They came to me and they told me, it was a day before, and they told me that, the baby was born, it was a little girl, and, normally you wait, it was a Monday, and I was going Tuesday for surgery, and they said to me, usually you go on Shabbos to name the baby. They were going that Monday because the Rav said to them, name the baby before she goes to surgery. Shoshana Bracha. That little tiny thing was a bracha for me to go through what I went through. So many things were coming together. So many things. But each step, you think it's easy, you say you have Emunah, you say you have Betochen, but it's coming and it's going, it's a flow. It's not something that's just steady, it's a flow. And because you do have doubts and you do have moments where you say, I don't know if I can. And then you realize Hashem is there. Hashem is there. And when I said to, my husband, I can't daven, I'm so sick. And he said, it's okay. You don't have to daven. You're a chola. Just hold on to Hashem. Talk to Hashem in your own words. He will hear you. Hashem heard me. And I went on to get better, to get stronger. And I was very, very strong. And, I said to my mashpia, Rabbi Kramer, who's director of Breslov Research Institute, was a very close friend of ours. I said to him, I can't daven. I just don't feel the same. I just don't feel the same. He says, what do you mean? He says, like before the transplant, I was davening, I had such a connection. I had a real connection with Hashem. I could feel it. Every time I got up to do the Amida, I could just feel it. I could feel the Shefa. I could feel it coming down. I could feel the connection. I don't feel that anymore. And he said to me, Moshe Rabbeinu, when he went before Hashem in the burning bush, he couldn't keep his face to him the whole time. He had to turn around. He says, you and your davening, you have to turn around. You can't be so close all the time. I thought I could be close all the time. You can't be. You have to turn around and you have to come back step by step and turn around again. It's an aliyah, it's a yurida. It's up, it's a running and returning all the time. And you have to know that each time you go up, you will go up and you return that much higher than you were the last time. But you have to hold on because each time you go down, you think you're alone, but you're never alone. You're never alone. Hashem is with you all the time. He's carrying you all the time. You just have to know that he's there. And your family need to know. And your people, your community needs to know. Everyone needs to know as they daven for you, that your tefillahs are being heard. And you're sharing them. You're sharing them. You're not just all for you. You're sharing those tefillahs. Those tefillahs go every which way. They go up to the Kisei Kavod, and Hashem determines who's going to receive them. It may not be you. I was fortunate. I was very fortunate. One of the two other of my donors, they were trying to have a child. They had been trying for 6 years to have a baby. No luck. They went for IVF. And they decided to, they backed out as donors, last minute. They were crossed and typed and were considered a match. And they went on to have 2 children. The skus of being willing to donate, I believe Hashem answered their prayers because they were willing to give me a kidney. It's amazing that the people who did step up to the plate. It's amazing the people who did. And Mindy was special. Mindy was special. So we were asked to give a talk to, we go to Bubba in Toronto. So the Bubba said, hi, would you give us a talk? I said, fine, no problem. tell them about what it was like for me when I went through my transplant. After the talk, Mindy seemed very distant, and I wasn't quite sure what it was. Why was she pushing away? And I went over to her. We both had our own cars, and I went over to her and I said, Mindy, what's the problem? What's going on? Something's wrong. Now, Mindy was an American, and she was getting married to a Canadian. My husband was an immigration lawyer, and he said to Mindy, let me help you. Let me help you and your daughter become Canadian. Now, there's a lot of expenses to become a citizen. It costs a lot of money. And my husband said, I will just, you just pay, what you need to pay to the courts, and I'll look after everything else. He said, I'd like to do this for you and your family. So she said, okay. And he said to her, well, you have to go for medical. She says, a medical? I've been for all the tests. They tested me up the yin yang. They tested me up the yin yang. I was tested for this. Because in order to be a donor, you have to be extremely healthy, especially if you are not related. You have to be even more healthy than a family member. Go figure. And so Yehuda said to her, don't worry, I will set it up for you. I will arrange that the doctor takes you in quick, because you have to have an x-ray. And, it'll be done, 1, 2, 3. So Mindy agreed. She went, and they found first stage malignant cancer in her lung. Now, this is a type of cancer that, grows silently. You don't know you have it. And usually by the time they discover it, it's too late. It can be months. It's usually a year at the most, and people die because it's a silent lung cancer. And I mean, this was just unbelievable. So at Toronto General, they went berserko. They went crazy. They said, oh my God, they gave a kidney with cancer, because if you come in contact with cancer as a transplant, it's like fire, like a wildfire. It goes through your body like crazy because you have no immune response. You've been pushed down by the drugs, and so you have no immune response. And so she was basically, dealing with this, and she's looking at me. She said, I don't know what to tell you. She said, I don't know what to tell you. Now, at Toronto General, which is a world-class hospital, the lung transplant team became immediately, informed, and they looked at this, and the head of the lung transplant team says, I will do the surgery, bring her in right away. Like, she went right to the top of the list. Bring her in right away. We're going to cut it out. They decided to cut it out, and they did not have to do any chemo. No chemo. And this was just unbelievable. And now, meantime, Dr. Cole says to me, Mrs. Levinson, we're running tests, we're doing research. We've never had a case like this before. I said, what else is new? I'm always the first one. So they said, okay, fine, you have it. We have to check this out, and we'll let you know. So they kept me on tenterhooks, waiting, like a few days to find out what's going to happen with the cancer. I mean, I had no idea. So anyways, they checked it out, and they said from lung to kidney, it does not transfer, and then I would be okay. And they would give me immunoglobulin, which is a drug to help my immune system, but just as a precaution, but they felt that I would be okay. Now, she had her surgery, and this is why Trillium, as I mentioned to you earlier, said to me, we'd like you to come speak. Why? Because she saved my life. She saved my life, and I saved hers. Nosein. The Hebrew word is nosein, 2 nuns at either end, 2 nuns. It means to give, right? she saved my life, and then I saved hers. I called up Pesach Krohn. I don't know if any of you have heard of Pesach Krohn. He's a well-known, what we call a Maggid. He's a storyteller. And I said to Pesach Krohn, I said, this was 2 years after my transplant. So I have a story to tell. And he says to me, you and everybody else. I said, no, you don't understand, Rabbi. I have a story to tell. He said, okay, you got 5 minutes. I'm getting into my car. Tell me. So in 5 minutes, I told him what happened. They'll see. He said, how fast can you get that story to me? I'm publishing a book now. And I'd like you to, I want you in my book. And I said, okay. And it was, my story is still, he still tells my story to this day. Every now and again, he moves the story. In order to have your story told by Pesach Krohn, you have to give your name and where you live. You can't sort of hide. And so I gave him my name and, Mindy too, and we did this. And one time, this is kind of a funny story. My son was in Miami and Rabbi Krohn was speaking to a huge crowd. And anyways, so Rabbi Krohn, I said to my son, he's my youngest of 3 boys. I said to him, go up to Rabbi Krohn, tell him who you are, because I'm sure he'd love to meet you. He's never met him before. So he went back, before the talk, and he said to Rabbi Krohn, I'm, Chaya Levinson's son from Toronto. And he's, oh, really? How nice. Rabbi Krohn is just an angel. He's a nice guy, really nice guy. Very warm, very friendly. So he gets up to speak. And the last story of the night was my story. So he said, I have someone special here in the audience tonight. He's here from Toronto. And I'd like, he's sitting there at the back. So everybody turns around to go like this. So what does my son do? He goes like this. He too was looking for the person that they were looking for. Baruch Hashem, it's a story. I lived through it. I found my way. And I continue. When you have betochen, you can put things in a box. You can put things in a box and you can draw upon that box, the treasury of honor and gifts, it's called, to help you when you feel empty. To know that when you feel empty, and you will, that you've got a box there when you had so much betochen, that you can open that box and say, Hashem, help me, please, and draw from that box. You can be that butterfly. You can be that caterpillar who turns into this butterfly. I feel I'm that butterfly now. And I beat my wings like crazy all the time. COVID is a scary time for many people. I have no fear because I have betochen. Hashem, when you're ready, I'll be there. And I don't run in fear. I went to see my children 6 months after COVID was in because I just decided I can't live in isolation. And, I've been with my granddaughters when they've had COVID. And, I didn't nobody knew that they had COVID because they're not vaccinated here. And we had 3 of them got COVID. 1 came back from camp with COVID. And I just feel that sometimes you have to go into that box because you don't always have that strength. You don't always have it. You've got to pull on it. You've got to look for it. Emunah is everything. We all have a certain baseline, but when you need that extra, it's there. It's there whether you can pull it up by yourselves or you go into your box. I went into my box. My kidney failed and I had to go on dialysis. And I went on hemodialysis and the hemodialysis failed. And they told my son that I wasn't going to make it. And I went into my box because every day I went for dialysis, I used to cry. Hashem, please help me. I've been through so much. I don't want to go now. There's so much in life I want to do. And I used to cry because they would tell me, they would cap it off with medication. They would try all these different things. So finally, this one doctor out of the blue, he's head of the dialysis unit, paid attention to me, and he said, I want to try an experiment with you. We're going to try this experiment. And you know what? It worked. But you can't, it was months of just not knowing. They said to Avraham, we don't know what's going to happen to her because we were having difficulty keeping the dialysis running. But you can find it. What I'm trying to tell you, the reason why I was willing to speak with Naomi is because all of us here are very ruchnius people, all of us. And I think that when you need it, you will find it. And don't be afraid of COVID. Find your betochen now and know that you can go ahead and get on with your life because Hashem is there for you. And if you has v'sholem you should get COVID, he'll carry you. I mean, people on my street have had COVID. It's like, it's there and it's scary. But I don't have any fear. I really don't. And you can feel the same way and know that, Hashem will look after you in whichever way he deems necessary. And you'll come through. And you'll come through with a smile and you'll be happy and you'll find peace within yourself. I'm now on peritoneal dialysis and I love it because I'm here at my cottage. I got my machines and my equipment up here. I got a speeding ticket going back to Toronto. I was doing 137 in an 85 zone and the cop said to me, excuse me? And she gave me a warning. I said, thank you, Hashem. Thank you. It was 1 o'clock in the morning. I was running back to get equipment that I left behind in Toronto. I said, thank you. And my kid said, Mom, will you ever learn? I said, look, who was on the street at 1 o'clock in the morning? Except Hashem was there with me. And I got a little bit of a patch. I got a warning, and now I drive with cruise control. So it's great. It's great. And I drive with cruise control through my life. I put it on cruise control, and that cruise control button is your betochen button. It's your Emunah button. So put on your cruise control. Be that butterfly that flaps in the wings. Put on your shoes with the right foot forward first, and know that there's chesed, not gevurah. Chesed will come first, and then gevurah. And you will find that your life will be that much happier, that much more settled. You'll find shalom, and Hashem will greet you and your family with only good things. And I'd like to say to Naomi, I hear she's moving to Israel. I would love to be able to go, but my health has never allowed it. Although Rebbe Nachman says to yearn to go is almost as much as making the move itself. So I will yearn, you will go and find lots of brachas and nachas in Eretz Yisrael. Thank you very much for joining me. And I hope, I know I always have stories to tell, but I hope I don't have too many more. But, let's all be diamonds. Let's all be diamonds in the rough. Let's all let Hashem buff us up and make us good and shiny and good little butterflies with lots of wings beating away, and go on your cruise control. Take care. Thank you.
Chaya, that was totally amazing.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Unbelievable.
Thank you.
Let's go straight to the Tehillim now.
I'm sorry, I just want to jump in and say a personal thank you to Chaya from Rhonda and David Newman. I got dressed for you because you inspired me. And I've been on this every day, of course, but I just want to say what a bracha you are to us. And from a nursing perspective, how you just gave that over to everybody. And I have to, and it reminds me, B'zichrono Lava, we know each other personally. And Chaya, what you said about your passion and your determination and that you have something to do in the world. It definitely is. You're doing it. And I'm just so touched to be here. I'm so grateful to see you so well. And, Bezrat Hashem, we should only see good things together. But thank you so much for the inspiration to everybody and what you brought from your perspective, because, as a nurse, and as you know, here I'm in David's office, and my father-in-law, B'zichrono Lava, said when he was a survivor that it was really God is always with me. And I'm just giving you that over, Chaya. Please say hello. And Gewalt, I can't wait, Bezrat Hashem, to see you in good health in person. And I'm just so blown over. So thank you. I had to interrupt for that. Chaya, it's great to see you well. May you continue to be well for many, many, many years, God willing, and give over all that inspiration. Thank you. And Naomi, yeah, Baruch Hashem. I had to jump in. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Okay, so let's
Thank
go
you
to
very-
the Tehillim. Oh, sorry. Chaya, you want to say one last thing?
No, I just wanted to thank Rhonda. I've known her husband, David, since we grew up in Halifax together. And he's been a wonderful support to my family throughout the years. Thank you very much, Rhonda. Thank you.
Okay, let's go to the Tehillim. It's already 9:01. Kapitel Yud Gimel. Lama natzech lemizmor David. Ad ona Adonai tishkacheni netzach. Ad ona tastirus panecha mimeni. Ad ona ashis etzois benafshi. Yogoin bo v'yoimam. Ad ona yorum oyevi oloi. Habita aneni Adonai Elihoi. Ha'ira einai pen ishan hamaves. Pen yoimar oyevi chotiv. Tzorai yogilu ki amayt. Va'ani b'chazdecha batachti. Yogel libi b'shuasecha. Ashir Adonai ki gomal oloi. Number Chaf 20. Lamanatzech mizmor David. Ya'ancha Adonai b'yom tzara. Yisagefcha Shem Elihei Yaakov. Yishlach esecha mikodesh u'mitzion yisadeka. Yiskar komen chosecha v'yilosecha yidash nasela. Yitain lecha chavavecha v'chol atzasecha yimalei. Neranen abishuasecha u'v'shem Eloheinu nidgoel. Yimalei Adonai kol mishalesecha. Ato yodati ki yoishia Adonai mishechoi. Ya'aneu mishamei kodshoi b'gvuros yeshu yiminoi. Eile v'rechem v'eile v'susim v'anachnu b'shem Adonai Eloheinu naskir. Hema koru u'v'nafalu v'anachnu kamnu u'nisoidod. Adonai Hoshia HaMelech Ya'anenu v'yom karenu. Yeah, let me just take off the live stream. Hold on. One second. Linda, can you get the live stream? Can you turn it off? Let's just see, hold on.